And welcome back, students. Let's go ahead and continue working with our document. Now, up to this point, when we look at our web page, we can look at this and say, oh, this is kind of plain and boring. Yeah, I got some text on here, but there's really not that much going on with it. Well, we're going to now start adding some color. Yay, color, exciting. All right, let's do that though. Now, there are two ways that you can do this. You can either do this with an internal style sheet or you can do an external style sheet. Now, I'm not going to get into the differences too much other than know that right now when we're working with HTML, we're going to do it internally, and later when we start talking on our CSS unit, we're going to do it externally. So let's go ahead and do an internal style sheet. So up to this point, everything that I've done on this web page has been done in the body. Remember, the body is all the stuff here. Body is what you see on a web page. Up here is the head, which remember I said is like the non-visible elements. And we've already been adding like a title. Right? And the title is a CSS element, so let's add it to our notes here. Exercise 3, which is the title page title. This is the title of the web page that appears on the tab. Okay, so if I go back and look at the tab here, you can see this still carries the introduction to Dreamweaver label that I gave it right in the very beginning. That is the name of this document, the title of it. If I look at my Dreamweaver code, right here in title, it says Introduction to Dreamweaver. If I were to change this right here to, example web page, hit save, and go back here and refresh, you can see that it has now been updated to example web page. All right, let's go ahead and do some work here inside of the head because we want to ultimately add color. Now, there used to be, before the days of CSS, you would actually use HTML stuff to do that. However, those ways are long since deprecated, and CSS and other forms are the way to go. So we're going to, inside of here, hit enter, and I'm going to choose style. Enter, and I accidentally make a question mark in there, so I need to delete that. All right. And now this one I do want to tab over for, because I want to style different pieces of my web page, because that's ultimately what style means, style the web page. So in here, if we look at our elements here, I have like H1, H2, H3, I have some paragraphs, all these different elements that I can stylize. So for our purposes right now, let's just focus on H1, H2, H3, all those, all the way down to the paragraph tag. So I'm going to choose first to stylize my header tag. So I'm not going to put bracket H1 bracket. When you're doing styling, it's not done like that. Instead, if I want to stylize an element, I just put H1. Now this is only, and I repeat, only when you are within the style tags. Otherwise, you don't do this. Now the reason why we do this is because we're going to instead put a curly bracket and then hit enter. And this tells Dreamweaver and your browser and whatever else, this is what I want to happen to that particular element. So for example, if I want to stylize my header and make that red, I don't just put red, I have to say color red, because it tells it to make the color red. And you can see, boom, my heading is now red. If I wanted to also, let's say, change the background color of my web page, I'm going to go right before my header because I like to follow kind of the order that they appear in my web page. Since body comes first, I want to put that first. I'm going to say body, and can't just say color, because if I just say color and I say purple, nothing happens. And the reason for that is because it's not a text piece. Your body is a whole element, and so what you really want is background dash color, which will then set it to purple. So there's background dash color purple. Okay. Similarly, if I wanted to do one for the paragraph, I can come in here and I can say, let's say, color is blue. And you can see I have blue text now. Now that makes it a little bit hard to read, which is something that you have to keep in mind. When you start adding colors and stuff, you have to make sure that the color that you're choosing is not as hard to read. So maybe I instead want this as more of a lavender. And you can see now it's a lot easier to read. Still kind of a purple hue, but it's a lot easier to read. All right. Now, one last thing that I want to talk about today is how you can stylize the same element, but differently if you have multiples of it. So let's take, for example, these two paragraphs I made. Remember I made my first paragraph, my second paragraph, a long time ago. Well, when I did my first paragraph, it's a paragraph. And my second paragraph is also a paragraph. And this one right here, this second paragraph element that has the sentence of superscript, subscript, that's also a paragraph. Now, technically, this is all from HTML side, one paragraph. HTML says there's just a break element there. That's just a line break. It's still within inside one paragraph tag. So even though we may consider it two paragraphs, HTML considers that one. So I'm just going to look to see where these p tags are. So I have a p tag here, a p tag here. Right? I'm going to indent that U over there. Right? So I'm going to do that by hitting enter here, hit tab, just so that I can kind of see where that paragraph is a little bit. And it doesn't look like it's going to cooperate, so I'm just going to leave it. Right? But what I want to do is look at this blue here and say, well, maybe I don't want it to be blue all the time. Maybe I want this second one here to just be back to black. Well, I can't just come up here and say color black because it overwrites it. That's the one thing about CSS. It always looks at the most recent one when it does this. So, hey, it's like, oh, you want blue? Oh, wait, no, you want black. So black it is. So we can't do that. Right? Instead, what we have to do is what's called a class. And so I can go ahead and go to my second paragraph element here, and I'm going to type class equals quote, and then I give it a name. And since this is, let's say, the second instance of a paragraph, I can call this second. I could call it second paragraph. I could call it second dash para. Doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to call it second para simply so that I remember what that's for, or I can even just shorten it to second p so I remember, okay, it's second what? Second paragraph. Got it. So right now it has this class second p. Now you notice that it hasn't changed anything yet. All we've done is given it a class. So we haven't done anything with it because we need to go back to our CSS here, the styling, and define what that class does. So to do that, I can just do dot second p. I can use a curly bracket, hit enter, and what that means is anywhere there's that class dot second p, I want to apply that second p part. So I can go ahead and say, hey, I want the color to be black. Now, I can specify specific elements. So let's say if I put P in front of this, now that means only have it if it's a paragraph. If I have multiples in front of there, then it'll be multiple elements. But this says anywhere there's a dot second P, change the color to black. So for example, if I wanted to, I could come in here to H2 and let's say I want all my H2 elements to have the color red. So I can do H1 comma H2, and you can see it will change the color to red. But if I want it so that way, here I have any paragraphs and H2 elements to have that. So let's say H2. Right. You can see nothing has changed because I haven't given it that class ID. So if H2 class equals quote second dash P, hit save. It hasn't updated. Now, it's because when you start looking at these, headers can be a little funky. So we're going to just, for now, for our purposes, to keep it simple, is just leave this as dot second P. And I personally find this way to be easier unless you need to specifically zero it in on an element. It's easier just to create a new class, which you can just do with dot second P. Or it'd be dot whatever your class name. So if you had a class called amazing, you would call it dot amazing. And then in there you could define whatever that amazing element is. Now there are other CSS pieces besides background color and color But for now, for our basic getting started here with what we're going to do, this is what we're going to start with. All right. So again, I'm going to kind of conclude us right here. You're going to have your own exercises you're going to work with, and we will continue again from here next time.